Hello, and how are you doing, everybody? Thanks for tuning in. This is Alakai coming to you, and today we have a really cool seminar that I taped at the latest Fred Hall Show 2020. This is going to be Chad Gerlach, one of the owners of HookUp Baits. I absolutely love their stuff. I've got tons of their stuff here, as you might be able to see. I just keep buying it because I really think that they work. They're absolutely one of the most effective baits to use. I was fortunate enough to catch him anytime he comes over here to do any kind of talks and seminars and stuff. I always try to catch him because he's genuinely one of the nicest vendors and manufacturers I've ever had an opportunity to listen to and talk to. I don't get that ego. I don't get that oversell kind of mentality. I really feel like you know, he's there just to provide you with that information and how to use their stuff. So if you want to. So anyways, this is actually what was called Improve Your Success, Bass, Yellowtail, White SeaBass, and More by Chad Gerlach. I think I taped it at 3:30 on Thursday afternoon when I went. So I held off on posting it because I wanted to make sure that the show was over and everything is good to go. And hopefully those who missed the show or didn't have a chance to get to the seminars because it was just too busy, you have a chance to take a look at this seminar, and maybe it helps you out. Hopefully it does. Gives you guys some information. Take care. If you enjoy my content, please just go ahead and hit that like button, bell notification if you want to see my latest videos, and let me know. Let me know what you think. I love talking about hookup baits. I use them all the time. If you watch my stuff in the harbors and the bays, and even when I'm going into the charter boats, I throw them on there just to see what's kind of going on. So they're definitely a go-to bait for me. So if you have any questions or anything about that, let me know, and hopefully enjoy. Take care, guys. Talk to you soon.
Best way of doing this kind of rig, and this by far was the best way. This swivel does a really good job, and they're really strong. I found other three-way swivels, but you know, you get 2 5-6 pound bass on here, or 2 big reds. They're going this way and they're going this way. They're bending that swivel in all kinds of ways. I've had them, a lot of them breaking right here, the barrels, you know, because they come out sideways and they're being pulled down. It'll pull the inside of the barrel out. So this swivel has stayed together very well for us. Keeps everything all untangled. It's really like just like using one bait. I mean, you'll reel in 2 rockfish from 200 feet, and you know, they spin half the way up. Basically take those 2 rockfish off. All you gotta do is grab your 2 baits, pull them apart, that swivel will spin out, and you drop it right back down and away you go. Very easy to use, very effective, especially for rockfish. The double rig for bass, rockfish, where I would use it, I wouldn't use it for white sea bass, I wouldn't use it for yellowtail, wouldn't use it for tuna, all that stuff. You want the structure type fish, bass and rockfish, that's where it worked really well. We've hooked yellowtail on it and stuff, and usually don't work out well. We've hooked 2 big bonita on it. It's like reeling in a helicopter blade. You know, it's too much. Not worth it. So, one more thing I want to show you about this. Now, this is actually the rod I do my rock fishing on. I use all spinners nowadays because spinners nowadays are just awesome. They're so powerful and so reliable, and they just work. 8,000 Saragossa reel. The Saragossas I love. Super durable. I got 10 of them now and never serviced any of them, and they all work like they're brand new. So braided line, 80 pound braid. I got a 60 pound fluoro leader right here. You can go fluoro mono. I start with 8 footer just in case, like say you're sitting there rock fishing, all of a sudden a yellowtail school pops up right there. You can snip that off, tie on, you know, a 1.5 ounce right there, same rod, hook it out, and you're ready to go. So that's one reason I don't like doing braid. You're ready to go if some surface action comes up. But the other reason, especially when you're using the 2 different sizes like this, right? With like bass, we like to use the same size. So you got 2 baits floating down and doing this, you know, the whole swimming. Everybody knows about how the hookup baits sink, right? A real nice glide action. They do all this great stuff going down. That's the real magic of a hookup bait, is the sink, especially on saltwater bass and rockfish. 80% of your bites are going to be on that sink. So you want to take full advantage of that sink. The more free you can let it sink, the better, more glide action, more of that kind of stuff that the bait does, you're going to have. Well, when you have 2 baits the same size, they're both doing it at the same rate. So they're swimming around each other, doing all this stuff, and it works really good for calico bass and sand bass and stuff like that. But when you're going the deeper stuff, I found it don't really matter. It just needs to be in their face. So I like to use the big one just to get it down in their face. And then once you put the rod in gear, the rods are there, the baits are there, the profile of the baits, the look of the baits, that's what gets the bit with the rockfish. So what you're going to want to do is tie the leader above it, because like I said, if the yellowtail come up, you want to have the quick change out. But then also, if you have braided tied to the top of the swivel, it's too flimsy, it's too limp. Especially when you have a heavyweight and a lightweight, one of the baits are going to be up here while it's sinking, up above the swivel. And that line will kind of come over, and wrap around this. I've noticed when I have a braided line here, you'll have this leader will stick above the swivel when you get down there. If you have a nice stiff 40, 60 pound fluoro or mono, it's stiff enough where the line kind of bounces off of it, and then as soon as you go tight, it falls down where it needs to be. So I found a lot less foul ups when you have a braid or a leader up above it. So that's pretty important. So this setup right here, actually this is the setup I used the last time I went rock fishing. I haven't changed nothing. 60 pound in the smaller bait, 25 pound, 40 pound to the bigger bait. So I got three, basically 80 pound braid, 60 pound, 25 pound, 40 pound, all fluorocarbon. And this was doing really well for me the last time we did our rock fishing. Only thing I changed out was the baits because they're all chewed up. Now, this is my baby. This is my Saltwater Bass Series tournament winners. Everything is done with this rod, a 9-foot Terramar, 6,000 Saragossa with a 3-ounce bait. This is what those 60-pound White SeaBass we caught was on this. Both of them were on this rod, but the big bass, we kept a lot of big saltwater, calicos and sand bass and yellowtail and all that stuff we catch. Big lean cods. A lot of them were caught accidentally while we were bass fishing with this big bait. So just a little warning for you. If you start fishing these big 3-ounce baits, they get very addicting because you catch everything you catch on them big and fun, and they're just fun to fish a big bait. You're just expecting that big bite any minute. So Dustin, he goes out with me every month. He can attest to this. I throw this the whole day. I throw a 3-ounce bait, and they throw the smaller baits and they catch fish all day long. But when I catch my fish, they're usually double the size every time. The big bait, big fish theory very much works with anything with bass name in it, especially sand bass, calico bass kind of thing. So you eliminate catching anything calico bass and sand bass, you won't catch anything under about 3 pounds with this. So the average calico and sand bass is all 3 to 6 pounders. We catch all day long on this thing. When we do our tournament fishing, we might have one of the guys do the double rig to put the limit together. I'll sit there and throw the big bait all day for the call out fish to get the size into the limits. So very addicting to throw these. I love throwing the big baits. 50 pound Max Quattro. I like the Max Quattro line. Works very well. It's very thin, very strong. 40 pound fluoro leader. You don't ever want to throw the big baits on less than 40 pounds. You're going to get your heart broken, either by a fish or by one of those granite groupers. Right, Dustin? Those granite groupers. That's a rock. Maybe I figured that out. But 40 pound, lightest you want to go with the big baits. You really don't need to go lighter. Now, you want to do leader length about right here, 6 to 8 feet. You want to keep your leader clean. Why I mean leader, having that double rig, you're able to test a lot of things. When we go out pre-fishing, we test different colors. We'll have fish 2 double rigs, 4 different colors, see which color's getting bit. Fish different size lines. And I also did that test with, I wanted to see if mono and fluoro actually makes a difference. So I put 2 identical baits, 25 pound fluoro, 25 pound mono, and that fluoro was getting bit more. Okay, fluoro actually does what it says. It does get bit more. But then I noticed after 5 or 6 bass or so, especially sand bass that do a lot of the rolling, once you start getting chafed up right here, I noticed the bite ratios started being the same. As soon as you clean up that little roughed up part, then the fluoro will work again. So fluoro works as long as you keep it clean. Clean fluoro. So I like to do about a 6 to 8 foot piece. So as it gets frayed, you know, you're cutting that much off, and you're cutting that much off. That braid, it should last you throughout the day, mattering how many fish and what kind of structure you're fishing and stuff, but you want to keep it clean. My leader length I usually start with, usually you have about that much line when you're going to cast, right? I put my knot, my connection knot, which is the FG knot. If you haven't learned the FG knot, it's the best knot to use. I've used them all. I've been using braid for about 15 years now. The FG knot is where you want to be. Put it right here between your reel and the first guide. See this one I've had on here for a little bit, so it's shortened up a little bit, but I start with right here. And that new Daiwa J-braid fluoro, I'm liking that stuff. That's pretty good price range. And then the Trilene Gold label is my other favorite. It's my two go-tos. And you can buy a spool of 100 yards or 200 yards, and it's usually the same price of a little 25 yards. So making an 8 foot leader, you're not going, oh man, this is an expensive leader. When you buy the cheaper braid, it does the same thing, and you can make an 8 foot leader without it breaking the bank kind of thing. And then this is my lighter inshore setup. The Shimano Twin Power, a little bit higher end reel. Basically, I like the higher end reel, but really between this and the Saragosas, which are the mid-range, you're only basically 2 ounces or something like it. It's a little bit lighter, but the power is the same, the drag's the same, everything is really the same. But for an extra couple $100, I would just go with the Saragosas. They work, they are workhorses, they don't break, and I'll go with them. So, and then both, again, all three of my favorite rods. These are my 3 main rods right here. The Terramars. This one's the 8.6. My favorite one's the 9 foot. I like to do the longer rods. You know, sometimes, especially this is like mainly my Yellowtail rod. I like this one's my Yellowtail. I caught a 40-pound Yellowtail last year on this rod. Handled it no problem. Same thing, 50-pound Max Quattro. This one I fished 25-pound fluoro leader. Same thing. I usually throw either the bullets or bullets that we make for the Yellowtails, 1 and 1.5. This is a big game 1.5 right here. And same leader length, same everything. But a long rod, not only casting distance, right? You get nice long cast and all that stuff. But when you're working these baits, here's going to be a really cool little trick for you guys. If you're on a private boat, always fish your downdrift, right? So the wind's blowing this way. You're going to be fishing that way. It's the total opposite of fishing live bait on a cattle boat, right? Wind in your face, you're doing the right thing. When you're fishing the hookup baits, you want to do the exact opposite thing. So you're drifting this way, and you just want to make a short cast, like from here to the drapes. Let it sink. That, like I said, 80% of the times, it's that initial sink that you're going to get your bite. You notice white and yellow line. It's all line watching. And that's one of the big reasons we use spinning reels. See how the line just falls off here effortlessly? So as that bait's falling, you usually have about 5 inches to a foot or 2 of line laying on top of that water. You learn to watch that line, it's going to tell you everything that's going on, right? You're going to just see a tick, you're going to see it speed up, you're going to see it stop before you hit the bottom. All those are fish. You know, so as it's sinking, I'm right here, I'm on the trigger. I'm watching that line, it's going down. As soon as I see that line do anything, it's usually a little pop. Just the line does a certain little pop. As your line's coming off the reel, it'll kind of do little pops, so you'll already hit little dry spots or whatever. But you learn that a fish taking it is a different type of pop. Instead of being a pop from this side, it's a pop from that side of the line. There's a certain little pop you watch for it, and you learn it, and you'll catch a lot more fish. Once you learn that line watching, you see that pop it in gear, get tight, set the hook, and it's a fish every time. I watch it. I take a lot of kids out fishing. I take a lot of veterans out fishing. So every month I get to fish with new people, you know, industry people, and I watch it. Every time I go, their line's going down. I tell them, oh, you just caught a fish. And they're like, what do you mean I just caught a fish? I go, watch. Put it in gear, start reeling. I'm like, how did you know that? It happens every time. It's all line watching. You know, Dustin knows. How many times does that happen? So you learn to line watch, you're going to catch a lot of fish. Now, the baits never foul up. You can do anything you want, whatever, the baits never foul up. But every once in a while, you'll come back with your bait like this. The only way that bait happened to get like that is by a fish biting it and spitting it out without you ever knowing. It happens all the time. It's like, hey, what happened to my bait? Well, that means you just blinked on the sink. That's our little logo. Don't blink on the sink because that happens. So that fish comes up, eats that bait. You never detected it. He spits it back out. You're like, wow, how'd my bait get like that? Every single time that happens, that's because you missed a fish. So, just so you know, if that bait comes up folded, we call it being folded. Oh, you got folded. And of course, the guy that got folded on the boat gets all kinds of crap from the other guys. Ah, you got folded. You blinked on the sink, you know, that kind of thing. So, yellowtail retrieve, very deadly on yellowtail. We've been catching, you know, for the last couple of years, we've been using them a lot for yellowtail. I spent my lifetime as a kid being on private boats, the deckhand, you know, and then fishing the long sticks with the iron, throwing bait, throwing live squid, all that stuff. And when I started really fishing these baits for yellowtail, you know, going through a whole 30 years of fishing yellowtail, I honestly think this will outfish anything you're gonna fish for yellowtail. Is a 1.5 ounce big game or a 1 ounce bullet hookup bait. I mean, you learn to cast it far and you learn that yellowtail retrieve, it is absolutely deadly on yellowtail. You want to get, like I said, 8.6, 9-foot rod, 5,000, 6,000 size reel, 50-pound max quattro. The max quattro is a lot thinner. You'll get a lot farther cast with that max quattro than the regular 8 strand. Don't want to use 4-strand braid. It's just too loud. It don't cast as smooth, everything else. So 8 strand or the max quattro works very well. You can launch a 1.5 ounce bait with this rod, like as far as you can do an iron on a 10-foot surface rod, right? You can cover a lot of water, let it hit the water, give it about, usually about a 10 count, and you're gonna just start a retrieve. Usually I get the rod down low, up under your armpit here, and you're gonna do about a medium crank. It's not a super fast crank, it's almost like a surface iron speed, and you're gonna pop it as you're doing it. It's right there, pop, pop, pop. So that bait's just come through the water and doing this kind of thing. Every time you pop it, it's gonna go left, it's gonna go right, it's gonna go left, and about that medium speed, about the speed of a bait fish going through the water, about the same speed, is absolutely deadly on yellowtail. Then, if you're on a private boat for locating yellowtail, these things troll, especially the bullets. The 1.5 ounce bullets troll very straight, very in line, and they'll just go through the water, and they do just a tight little wiggle as you're trolling them. So locating yellowtail at 3 to 4 miles an hour, we found is the magic speed. You know, at the Coronados, you get a lot of guys slow trolling sardines. You're doing that at as slow as your boat can go, basically 1 mile an hour. So you're not covering a lot of area. You know, and then you get the other guys trolling rapalas at about 5 miles an hour. Trolling a hookup bait is right in between. It's about 3 to 4 miles per hour. Very effective. But the one thing about a hookup bait, you get a single hookup, right? So you stop the boat, the guy's fighting that yellowtail, the other guy can reel his bait in. If he don't get bit on the reel in, he's got this rod still in his hand, fire it back out there, look for that other bite. That's the difference. You don't have to put your rod up and switch rods and, you know, just that. You got your rod that you're trolling with, you got it in your hand, fire it right back out there so you're in the zone quicker. It's very effective. That's my favorite kind of fishing, is when you're catching bass and yellowtail and sheephead and all that, and with yellowtail in between, that's heaven for me right there. Bass and yellowtail together, you can't beat that. All right, so we're gonna do some questions. You ask a good question, you get a prize. All right?
I got here
What's
a
up,
little
Paul?
late. Did you talk about the scent?
The scent? I don't know, did I talk about scent? I just kind of go freely here. This stuff, sometimes you absolutely need it, sometimes it don't make a difference. We formulated it to easy to use bottle, and the consistency is so it's all easy to use. Before we started making our own set, we used every scent out there. It's either too watery or too thick. You sit there fighting with it to get it in there, or you put it in there and it comes right back out. So we worked with it pretty hard to get the right consistency, so it's easy to put in there, but it's easy, it stays in there. So you're gonna go right underneath the hook, fill this hollow cavity with the bait, with the scent. Now, we do it in different colors. Now, you see a jack smelt. You know, everyone knows what a jack smelt, right? They usually have that bluish color. They have the real bright yellow gill plates, a yellow lateral line. That's why this is yellow. You put it in there, it gives it the yellow gill plate, yellow lateral line look. Same thing for sardines. They have the yellow gill plate. Same thing for freshwater for like a shad, has the yellow gill plates. So that's why this one is called a fin bait. It has sardine oil in it, and it's yellow. Gives it the yellow gill plate look. You see a lot of swim baits out there with an orange and red belly. That's why this one's red. And plus, also, this is our crab and shrimp, or we call it crustacean. So it goes in the red crab. It just adds more red to the red crab baits. And this smells like it has shrimp and crab oil in it. Then we have a white one that is also a garlic one. The baits already smell like garlic out of the package. And then they have one that you can add even more garlic. The garlic that are infused in the baits in the process of making them, that's kind of a cover scent. That covers the human scent, the plastic scent, all the unnatural scents that go in there. That natural scent of garlic covers all the unnatural scents. So that's a cover scent. This is your attractant scent. This is going to be the scent you add to it. Now you see, all these have a ton of glitter in it. Now, when you fish eat other fish, you can come up on a yellowtail or tuna boil. The water's littered with scales in the water. Or if you watch fish, I had a pet bass all my whole teenage life. Put a bunch of goldfish in there, the whole tank turns into scales, and then the other fish get all excited once there's a bunch of scales in the water. So that's another feeding reaction of fish, is scales in the water. So as the scent's coming out of that bait, leaving a little scale trail. So our scents do many things. It's color, and scent, and a scale trail. So there's three things you can do with the baits. Oh, geez.
What about the colors for yellowtail? You talked about the type of retriever. What are the different colors?
My favorite color for yellowtail is probably the mint, and the sardine would be the second. Mint and sardine, probably all around, just always get bit. Sometimes they're on that red crab really well. The yellowtail go nuts on the red crab, so the red crab catches them really good.
On the top, right?
But we've caught them on the glow greens a lot. We've caught them on everything. So.
Channel, I fish in channel, right? Yellowtail, 1.5 pounds.
1.5 ounce big game is a good choice for yellowtail, for sure. Yeah.
Or the green one.
Yeah, exactly.
And then one more thing.
Okay.
What's the difference between the bullet head and the regular head?
What's the difference between the bullet and the regular? Yes, that we don't have it here. Basically, they both have. Yeah, the package is going to have a little label on the face of it. It's going to say bullet. Now we came out with bullets at Fred Hall last year.
Oh, okay.
But it's the same head as the big game. So this is a 1 ounce bait, right? So the bullets are going to have the same head in it, but this is a 5-inch bait. The bullet's going to be a 4-inch bait. So it's going to be a little bit shorter and a little bit thinner in profile. So it's going to be less plastic, more lead. So it casts farther, it comes through the water straighter.
But the head is the same.
Yeah, the head's the same. The head and the hook is the same.
Oh, okay. That's what I couldn't figure out.
Yeah, a lot of people cut the tails on these. Now, when I designed these, I had 2 solid months of nothing else to do but to make my hookup bait. I had the idea in my head for about 5 years before I ever made one. And then I got the go-ahead to go into business and make them. And I got to be a mad scientist for 2 months straight, 10 to 15 hours a day. It's the funnest thing I ever did in my life. And I went long cut, short cut, no cut, I played with every kind of different plastics, different angles of cut, different lead heads, all that kind of stuff. The way this bait is, how it is now, is the absolute best way it's going to work. Because I've tried it all. I've done everything to it. So a lot of people, he asks, what about cutting the tail, the slit longer on the tail? Some people like to do that for a little bit more action. If you're kind of jigging it on the bottom, it's going to give it a little bit more of this, but you're going to lose your sink. So the type of lead head and the type of plastic and the way the cut is, the solid body on here is almost like a hull of a boat. That's what planes it out and makes it float. Now when you cut that tail up here, you're taking part of the boat, the planing of it away.
But on the surface, it gives it more action.
And I would say more if you're dragging the bottom with it, it would give it more action. But I wouldn't do it. Leave it as is. That's the best way to go.
The bass bite's really slow. Do you have like a certain retrieve you really like? Keep it on the bottom more? Or?
We're talking like spotties or
Spotties,
yeah.
like in the harbor.
There's always fish biting, especially with baits. There's no tide the fish didn't bite. Oh, the moon baits. There's always going to be fish biting somewhere. You just got to figure out the puzzle, And so it's a slow bite. I would move and do something else. And you know what I mean? More to change up what you're doing. If you're doing something that you usually catch fish on, it's your zone. It's where you're fishing more than anything else. I would move.
get a school of maybe Dorado or bluefin or something,
Yeah.
would you switch that bait or would you just keep that?
I would keep it. The Dorado actually, you do a 1 ounce, or the 5/8 pink. The Dorado absolutely love that pink one for some reason. They just go nuts over the pink, especially on patties and stuff. These baits are phenomenal for fishing a patty. You know, you get Yellowtail and Dorado on a patty, you can get to that patty quick, you can work around that patty very well, and they're gonna bite it just as well as if you get a live bait next to that patty. So it's a really good, and it's a way of not using your live bait up. If you're going for tuna and you come across a patty, you don't need to waste 10 pieces of bait trying to see if there's a fish on that patty. Have a rod with a hookup bait on it, you know, probably a 1 ounce bullet mint or sardine was a good choice. Fire it at that patty, run along that patty a couple times, let a couple baits sink 20, 30 feet at that patty. That's the way, if you don't get that on a hookup bait around the patty, there's probably nothing on it. You don't have to waste a single bait on it and then go carry on to go find your tuna and save your live bait for tuna. That's one fish. We've caught a lot of tuna on them, but tuna are such a weird fish. They're so different than anything else. Why I don't fish them a whole lot. I do my couple days of tuna a year. I'm used to, if there's everything inshore, if I know there's fish there, of yellowtail, sheephead, bass, whatever it is, I'm gonna be able to figure it out and catch them. Tuna are totally different. Sometimes they're out there and they're all around the boat, and no matter what you do, you can't catch them. And that frustrates the absolute hell out of me, and I don't like doing it. So.
Do you do the surface action if they're on top? Have you ever tried to use the hookup in the surface?
For the tunas? Oh yeah. Yeah, we throw them in boils and they get bit. And what we found is surface, you're on top and they're all doing all this stuff. And so you're firing it and bringing it to that thing all aggressive and everything else. We'll catch a tuna every once in a while, but it's the guy that fires it into that boil and just sits there and lets it sink. He catches a tuna before everybody every single time. So you get in a tuna boil, fire a bait out there and let it sink. Give it a good 50 count. Then start retrieving. It's normally, even the tuna love to bite it on the sink. So I would do that. The veterans program, where'd he go? He's right there. You need to talk to this guy. We take about a group of veterans every month. He does it on his private boat once a month. We do it on our hookup bait boat once a month. It's really good time.
Chad, sometimes you get in and you got skippies all over the surface and the yellowfin are below it.
Yeah.
The bullet goes down fast and you just let it go right through the skippies. They won't touch
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
And the friggin' yellowfin.
Exactly. I've heard that same thing. When you got on a cattle boat and you can't get away from the skipjack, I've had that many people tell me that. If you're throwing a live bait out there, you catch a skipjack every time. A guy throws on a 1 ounce bullet, he gets through the skipjack and he's catching a yellowfin every time. So it's very effective for that. On these are all medium heavy. So it'd be the Terramars, the medium heavy size. All three of them. Actually, the rockfish one is heavy. The other two, my two main ones, are medium heavy. Lewis.
Fish a big game over a bullet
A big game over a bullet. Yeah. When I'm fishing for something where I want a fast retrieve or a long cast, I do the bullet. If I'm fishing for like bass, like usually for bass, like calico and sand bass, I'll fish with the big game. The bigger bait, bigger profile, bigger bass kind of thing. But if there's yellowtail around, I'll probably fish the bullet more often for that. Or if the calico are up high, when they're spawning, they're up high, very active, the bullet works really well for that. It matters if, are you doing bay or outside for the halibut? Inside a bay? I would do 3/8 or 5/8 would be the halibut size. The mint works really good for them. The glow green actually works really good for them. A white shad in the morning and the evenings. The white shad works really well. Back here. Yeah. Were you not here earlier? Here, I already answered that one over. I'll talk to you after and get some other questions. Someone over here had one, right? Yeah. Yeah. The 1 ounce is a very common bait for what kind of fish? It matters how far you need to cast. You know, the 1.5 actually you can wing it a little bit farther, but the 1 ounce you can keep in the zone longer. If the fish are right up on the surface That 1 ounce, you can work a little slower. And 1 ounce, again, you have to work faster to keep it up in that high zone kind of thing. So, but you can, if they're being boat shy and you need a long cast, that's where you go with 1 1/2 and get a little bit longer cast. So it's nice to have both and play with them. Danny. Island bass fishing. Probably the 1 ounce red crab is, or 1 ounce or 5 ounce, 5/8 red crab or the 1 ounce red. When you get those bass at Catalina, San Clemente, we do a lot of bass fishing at the Coronado Islands. When they're up tight to that island, that red crab, it seems like they know the red crab are in the area, and you might have a straggler come up tight to the island every once in a while, and they attack it, right? They don't have the big clouds of red crab that are up against the island usually, right? So those tight to the island bass, when they see a red crab, they just go nuts over it. And so you do that 5/8 1 ounce and throw it right up into the island and kind of just work it right above the rocks. It's absolutely deadly on calico bass and sheephead. That's how last year I caught a 24-pound sheephead, and it was throwing a red crab up onto the island. I ended up catching the sheephead that was that big. It was pretty awesome. Same thing, yeah. Cedros Island is the same thing. If you're going to Cedros, all you need to go there with 1 ounce big game red crabs and 1 ounce bullet red crabs. That's really all you need to go there. You're going to catch everything at Cedros Island on that red crab bait. Same thing with Ensenada, where Louis is down here. Ensenada, red crab bait just goes nuts there. Same thing. But then, you know, it's nice to have some fish colors. You know, sometimes I call it the Oreo cookie effect. You eat a whole pack of Oreo cookies, what's the last thing in the world you're going to want to eat? Another Oreo cookie, right? Bass get the same way. When they're sitting there just absolutely packed with red crab, I found the last thing you can, the hardest bait to get bit on is red crab. And we actually won a couple tournaments last year in San Diego like this, because there's a lot of red crabs. Everybody's using red crab, and I figured it out through just fishing the area a lot. You know, well, there's red crab, and they're actually packed with red crab, but they're not fighting it. Also, we throw a sardine green out there, and it gets hit immediately. You know, even though they're packed with red crab, they're eating a 1 ounce sardine bait like crazy. And that's what we call the Oreo cookie effect, is what we call it. And so everyone there, oh, there's red crab. Everyone with red crab, we throw the mint and the sardine, and we get a nice big limit of bass, and it's that effect. So there is a point where if they're too much on red crab, that they don't want no more red crabs. They want to eat something different. But when there's the best time to use red crabs, when there's red crab kind of in the area, and they're kind of have it in their heads of, okay, there's red crab, we're eating red crab, but they're not packed with them. That's when the red crab baits absolutely kill them. So, what time is it? I don't see the other guy though. So, you guys got questions? I'll keep asking until they get here.
So do you like slow jigging off the bottom, or you like yo-yo, or just retreat to the top?
For what kind of fish?
Or like
Sheephead? The sheephead are awesome, but I love sheephead. We call them almost our mascot fish because they're hookup baits colors, and they absolutely love hookup baits. I've never caught so many big sheephead in my life until I started just only fishing mainly the red crab hookup bait. This is like candy. And one other thing, everyone asks me what's my favorite scent. Really, both of these we have not found, like on bass and rockfish and any other kind of fish, one working better than the other. They both work really well, except for sheephead. Sheephead absolutely love this red bait. So if you're wanting a sheephead, put a red crab bait on. Usually the 1 ounce bullet is a really good one because they have the smaller house, so that little smaller profile bait is easier for them to eat. And fill it full of this, and you'll catch your biggest sheepheads you ever caught with that combination. And well, see, we catch big sheephead while we're bass fishing for calicos. We catch big sheephead when we're rock fishing for rockfish. So it's almost a bycatch. You know, go rock fishing and use a red crab bait, you'll catch sheephead. Go calico bass fishing, use a red crab bait, you're gonna catch sheephead. So it's one of those fish you don't target, but it's a really good bycatch of rock fishing and bass fishing with the hookup bait. So just work it, do the regular bass or rockfish way.
Sorry, I came in late, so if this is a repeat, I apologize. But what's been the most successful for Yellowtail?
The most successful Yellowtail is probably going to be the 1 ounce mint bullet. 1 ounce mint bullet. It would be probably our #1 bait. That's what I've caught my biggest and most Yellowtail on. Then the 1 ounce bullet sardine would be #2. But the bullets work better for the yellowtails. I like them. Farther casting, come through the water very straight. And that small profile, we came out with the bullet. Basically, we're throwing the 5-inch baits. These guys, and we've done a lot of yellowtail fishing. You get a lot of follows and no takes, you know, especially if you're throwing irons. A lot of follows, but they don't commit and bite it. We're out at Coronado Islands, a lot of yellowtail around. We're catching a couple, but we're having a lot of follows and no bites. And so I just grabbed a little bit lighter rod and put a 5/8 ounce bait, which is a 4-inch bait, a little bit smaller profile. That thing hits the water, jig, jig, boom, and they eat it immediately. So, but the whole problem was you couldn't cast it as far on the gear that you needed to have a yellowtail. So that's where he came out with the 1 ounce bullet, the bullets, where it's still the profile of a 5/8 bait, still a 4-inch bait, but it has 1 or 1.5 ounce where you can throw it on the heavier gear, and then it's more lead, less plastic, and actually going through the air, you don't notice all this wiggling slows it down. The aerodynamic, where you get more lead and less plastic, you get less of that. So it actually improves your casting distance. So that's the whole name of bullet, because it casts like a bullet. Then it comes through the water like a bullet because more lead, less plastic. So Steve's here. He's the next guy. He's a wealth of knowledge. Stay here for him. He's a genius. So thank you guys.